So I'm kicking it a little old school. If you can notice, I'm a little washed out, and that is because we are in the middle of a power outage at this moment. So I'm going to do my best to give my mock draft here by candlelight. It's not really candlelight, it's a lantern, but I'm kicking it old school like back in the day. So, doing a little something different. I'm going to do my football mock draft. Don't usually talk about football on here. I'm usually the baseball, basketball guy, but football is my number one passion. I love it. It's my favorite sport. And draft time is upon us. It's my favorite time of year every year, mostly because my team used to be in the top 10 for the past 10 years, give or take. But for the first time in a long time, they are not. But still excited about it. You get to watch these kids go from the collegiate level to the pro, see how they've grown as players, see what they are all made of. Are they going to be bust or are they going to become superstars? It's fun. The draft is a crapshoot, so you really never know what's going to happen. You know, Tom Brady falling to the 6th round. There's guys that are undrafted that made it into the Hall of Fame, like Antonio Gates. So I want to kick it off, and it's an exciting time to be a Browns fan, especially since they got the #1 overall pick and the 4th pick. So many times that they've been in the situation where they've traded out of spots. They've passed on Carson Wentz, naming a franchise quarterback, and then Deshaun Watson last year with the Texans. Hence why they have the Texans pick this year, and they're picking 4th as well. Last year they drafted Myles Garrett. So what do they do this year? Do they finally go ahead and take a quarterback? Yes, I think they do. Is it going to be the 4th pick or the 1st pick? I don't know. That's still up in the air. I don't see this time around, I don't see them trading out. They have had so many signal callers in years past. I mean, it's got to be over 20. It's been a really rough time for the Cleveland Browns. I got to give it to their fans. They stick by that team through thick and thin. I think they're great fans. I got to give them credit, sticking with them, going 0-16, winning 1 or 2 games. It's been rough for y'all. I mean, the team up and moved a few years back when they became the Baltimore Ravens, and right when they had Bill Belichick and they were going to be successful, they could have even had Ray Lewis. But that's years past. We're not going to look at it. They lose a Hall of Famer in Joe Thomas this year. So how do they replace him? They're not going to take a tackle. It's not a very good class this year. So I'm going to say with the 1st overall pick, the Cleveland Browns are going to take Josh Allen. It's a very quarterback-heavy draft this year. I don't see any franchise signal callers right off the bat. They're going to come in here. That they're jumping off the page like a Carson Wentz, like an Andrew Luck. So it's could be any one of these guys. Darnold, Allen, Rosen, to name a few. You know, Baker Mayfield. But I think Allen, out of all of them, is the best signal caller. He's big body. He's intelligent. He's athletic. He's got all the arm talent in the world. Only real knock on him is his accuracy isn't that good. Under, 55, I think it was 52% for his career. And you want to consider him playing at D2 a knock. I don't like to think that way because if you can ball out anywhere. It doesn't matter if you play D1, D2, D3, as we've seen. Carson Wentz was a D2 player, and look how great he is. It doesn't matter. If you can ball, you can ball. It doesn't matter about that whole recruiting crap. So you look at him, he's got all the arm talent, the accuracy is an issue, but he's not going to start right off the bat. They signed Tyrod Taylor this year. They also got Carlos Hyde. They made a couple big free agency splashes. So I say Josh Allen's the #1 overall pick. You let him sit for an entire year, learn behind Tyrod. I think it's a perfect situation. They got the right coach in there for Cleveland. They finally got a really good GM in Dorsey. They are on the right track. They're going to make some noise this year. Look out for the Browns. It might only be 4 or 5 wins, but that's going to be a success. For the #1 overall pick, I have Cleveland Browns taking Josh Allen. Then we go to the New York Football Giants. Been a long time since they've been in the top 3. If you remember, when they got Eli, they were picking 4th that year and traded up with San Diego. So last time they were picking within the top 3, I believe it was when they drafted LT, Lawrence Taylor. And that was a pretty good pick. So where do they go? They could go a few ways. They could trade down. They could take a franchise quarterback to learn behind Eli, or they could take that beast in Saquon Barkley, who I think is the best prospect in this entire draft. If I was the New York Giants, in my mock, I'm taking Saquon Barkley. This guy can do it all. He's one of the best running back prospects to come out since AP and LaDainian Tomlinson. He can pass block. He can run inside the tackles, outside the tackles. He can catch. I mean, the kid can do it all. He's a cowbell. He's about 6 foot, 230, runs about a 4.5. He can do it all. And that whole bias of you don't take running backs in the first round or within the top 10, well, look what's happened the few past years. You got Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, and we're going to throw another one on here, and Saquon Barkley, and he's going to be a fantasy stud too. So it's been a very, very, very long time since they've had a bull behind there. Tiki Barber wasn't really a bull, but he was a really shifty running back, and you plug him in here with this Giants team. They've built up on their offensive line, so that's going to help them out. It will also help Eli extend his career, in my opinion. So Saquon Barkley to the New York Football Giants. Then we've got the deprived New York Jets. They have been starving for a franchise quarterback since the 60s. Free Love, Jimi Hendrix, all that good stuff. Free Love might have been the 70s, but I think it generated in the 60s too. Anyway, what do? They trade up from 6 to 3. You know they're going to take a quarterback. That's the funny thing too. We might see 4 quarterbacks go within the top 10. But they are starving for a quarterback, a signal caller. They have had really bad luck. They had Mark Sanchez butt fumble. He was an awful pick. They took Hackenberg. He didn't really work out. You remember Geno Smith didn't work out. So they finally say, to hell with it, we're going to trade up, we're going to go get our guy, and I think this is a really great landing spot for Josh Rosen. He gets to be in the spotlight, he's an LA kid, I think he's the best pure passer out of all the quarterbacks here, and he can sit and learn too. He doesn't have to be thrown right into the mix. They signed Teddy Bridgewater, they still got Josh McCown there, so he can learn. The kid's accurate, he's got a really good arm, he had over 6 games, I believe, with 350 yards passing. He's a born leader. I think this might be finally the guy that the Jets hit on and get a franchise quarterback since Joey Namath. Broadway Joe. Been a long time. Now we go to the Browns at number 4. So this is the Texans pick. What do? So in my mock, they got Josh Allen. They got their quarterback already. Saquon Barkley's off the board. So it's going to be crazy mayhem because I think we're going to see a lot of trades too. Due to this be a quarterback-driven league, there's other franchises that are starving that are down below that are going to try to jump up, like the Buffalo Bills, like the Arizona Cardinals. So it's going to be a crazy night tomorrow night. But in my mock, I'm not doing any trades. So at number 4, what do the Browns do? Saquon Barkley's off, so you can get a running back, but I don't know if they take him anyway because you've got Carlos Hyde. You still got Duke Johnson, but if you see in drafts, you never want to draft for need. It never really works out. So you always want to take best player available, and I say Bradley Chubb. You took a stud in Myles Garrett last year. Why not get another bookend in Bradley Chubb? Defense wins championships. It's all about the line of scrimmage on the defensive and offensive end. You saw the success with the Philadelphia Eagles last year. With that rotation of the defensive line, you want to get to the quarterback. Why not have 2 bookends? Look at the success the Colts had with Robert Mathis and Dwight Freeney for all them years. You collapse that pocket. It helps your secondary out. So the Browns go get Bradley Chubb. He's a workhorse. He's a go-getter. I mean, he's got decent athleticism, but the guy has just got straight will. His motor is constantly going. I think you team him with Myles Garrett, the Browns have something to mess with. Now we got the Broncos. They could be trading out. What do? They need a quarterback. They've got a decent team still. For being in the top 5, they're a quarterback away from maybe competing again. Their line's a little shaky, but you got a signal call in here. They signed Case Keenum, but you've got really good wide receivers over there. You still got a tenacious defense that could be winning Super Bowls. So, of course, now the lights go back on, so I'm going to turn this off, so excuse me. But the Broncos go out and get Sam Darnold. They're running here. I think this is a dream scenario for John Elway. A lot of people have Darnold as the number 1 overall rated quarterback. Thing with me is I'm not a big SC quarterback guy. Other than Carson Palmer, they're really great in college, and then they struggle when they get to the pros. Kind of like SC wide receivers, too. You look at the Matt Leinerts, the Matt Barkleys, they haven't had success that they did in college, so they struggle a little bit. But Sam Darnold, everybody seems to fall in love with him. I'm not a big Sam Darnold guy. I think he turns the ball over way too much. He's a little bit careless. But in this point, number 5, if they don't trade out of it, this is where you could maybe team up with a partner and trade with the Buffalo Bills that are desperate for a signal caller, and you can cash in. But I have the Broncos taking Sam Darnold here at number 5. He can learn behind Case Keenum. John Elway knows quarterbacks. Could develop, help him out. Now we got the Colts at number 6. Okay, they were at number 3. They traded back. They built on their draft capital because they have a lot of holes to fill. But they already have their quarterback in Andrew Luck. Well, what do? You want to try to protect that franchise quarterback, which they haven't been able to do. That has been a mess ever since they drafted Luck. They haven't been able to protect him. They cheaped out. They didn't invest in that offensive line, and it showed because he's been injured all too much. He's had spleen injury, back, his shoulder's been shot. It's because he's been running for his life the past few seasons. Well, they should build up this line, and this should be a dream scenario for them, but he could still be here, and that's Quenton Nelson. They should run this card up there. This guy is a road grader. One of the best guard prospects I've seen since Zach Martin came out. He's a great pulling guard. He's a road grader. He's nasty. I mean, this could be an all-pro, 12-time all-pro Hall of Famer right here. Prospects like him don't come around all too often. So you plug him in there to protect Andrew Luck, and then you start building that offensive line, and hopefully he comes back this year, because there was even talks he wouldn't even be back. His career was going to be over. But the trainers have faith, so Quenton Nelson here at 6. All right, now we got the Bucs. Coming out of Hard Knocks, you'd think they were going to make a big splash. Didn't really do anything much. Had a disappointing season. They re-signed Dirk Cutter, which I was surprised. You got a really good offense right there with Mike Evans, and then you've got, who else you got? You got Jameis Winston. They lost the muscle hamster. They've got a decent line, but I still think they could build on this. That defense has struggled. That secondary was horrible. They got cut up like Swiss cheese. So you plug in a safety like a Derwin James who can play all over the field. He can play in the box. He can cover. He can go in the slot. It all depends on his knee, if that knee is going to be healthy or not. Because you could see Minkah Fitzpatrick going here either. But I think Derwin James is a better safety. He's like a Cam Chancellor. He roams all over the field. You want to play him in the box. He can really lay a lick on a guy. Hard-hitting safety. Love him. Derwin James here to 7 of the Bucs. Now we got the Bears. The Bears. You want to protect. Last year, they trade up to get Mitchell Trubisky, their quarterback of the future. So, free agency, they make a big splash on offense. They go out and get Trey Burton at the tight end position and then sign Allen Hurns to add to that receiving core. Kevin White, we don't know what's going to happen. There's no offensive players, I think, that are worthy of the top 10 at tight end or wide receiver. But they kind of solidified those positions in free agency. Line's still a little shaky. Tackles are no good. But tackle class is very poor this year. Too high to take McGlinchey. So who do you take? Will Hernandez at a UTEP. This guy, much like Nelson, is a nasty road grader. He's a mean sucker. Guy is 350 pounds, will wipe people out. He's like a Gabe Jackson, but better. Way better. And I think his pass protection is really underrated. I think this guy is also going to be 12-year starter out there, going to be a Hall of Famer, All-Pro. You definitely take him. You want to protect your franchise quarterback that you think you have there. You also have Kyle Long on the inside. Cody Whitehair can move back into center. And then you plug in Hernandez. You got a really nice interior. And Jordan Howard's going to love that because you can run 4 days if you have them 3 big uglies in there. So, Will Hernandez, number 8. Going to the Bears. Now we've got the anomaly in the San Francisco 49ers. They went from great to worse in the snap of a finger. You know, that whole issue with Kaepernick, the whole turmoil over there. They bring in Johnny Lynch. They lose Harbaugh. They got Kyle Shanahan now. They make the trade of the century. They give only up a second-round pick to obtain Jimmy Q. All right, Jimmy Garoppolo is by far, I think, a franchise quarterback. The dude's a stud. I was very surprised that the Patriots gave up on him, but with Tom Brady there, what are you going to do? You can't sit him forever. So I'm kind of happy the Patriots didn't get to cash in on Jimmy Q. So they trade him to the Niners. He rides off 5-6 straight wins, and they end up with 7 wins last year. Okay? I think this team is on the verge of pushing, and this was doing without any weapons on that offense. So, again, I don't think any offensive talent right here is worthy of taking it this high in the draft. So you're not going to take any wide out tight ends. Their offensive line is decent, but the 2 guards that are top 10 they're off the board already. So what do? You build up on that defense, baby. And I think Tremaine Edmunds right here is a perfect spot for him. You remember all the success they had when it was the Harbaugh era? You had Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis fly sideline to sideline. This kid is young, but he's an athletic freak, and he's a thumper. He can play inside. I think he can play outside. He ran a 4.5 for being like 6'5", 240. He's all over the field. He's like a cornerstone guy you build around in your defense, like the Ray Lewises, the Brian Urlachers. This is a perfect spot for him, especially with you don't know what's going on with Reuben Foster. So Tremaine Edmunds here to the Niners. Then we got the Raiders. Chucky signed as the new head coach. He's going to bring that grit that he had with the Bucs. And I think they're going to run this card up because, again, their defense was horrific last year. Worst defense in the league. They need some of them high draft picks to really step it up. But they haven't. The Carl Josephs, Gayron, I can't pronounce his name, Conley from Ohio State last year was injured, but I think he's a good pickup that they got. So you get another Buckeye to put on the other end in Denzel Ward. Best corner in the draft. He's little, but he doesn't play little. He plays big. I think he's a straight-out cover corner. He's a beast. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. Quick feet, smooth hip transition, decent hands, and he's a burner. He runs a 4.3. So you have 2 shutdown corner. Well, I don't know about, Conley, but I know Denzel Ward can be a shutdown corner. So you go to DBU, of course. Ohio State's been pumping him out for a few years now. Denzel Ward to the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders. Then we've got the Dolphins. They could go any which way right here. They have way too many holes to fill. They trade Jarvis Landry. He goes to the Brownies. They didn't get much for him, but what did they do? You don't know really what's going to go on with Ryan Tannehill. He was injured last year. He's been injured often. They've got a decent running back in Drake. Their line could use help, but their defense is horrific. So I think you take best player available, Minkah Fitzpatrick. You got to start somewhere. Okay, now the Buffalo Bills. This is another fan base that has been dying for a franchise quarterback. Ever since one of the craziest things of going to 4 straight Super Bowls and losing every one of them. That's rough. That's a shame, but they're a diehard fan base, and they've been looking for a quarterback for a long time as well. I think this is where they get their franchise quarterback, and they might not have to trade up to get it. Lamar Jackson falls to them. Now, you let him sit for a year because they got A.J. McCarron aside in free agency. Let him learn. This kid could be something special, honestly. But he could either go this high or he could fall into maybe the second round. Really don't know. But he's got crazy quick feet. We're talking Mike Vick crazy feet. This dude could convert to a wide receiver, but he put his foot down. He said, I'm a quarterback, and I'm going to show y'all. He's got a big chip on his shoulder, won the Heisman Trophy in 2016. Imagine pairing him with Shady in the option. They've got an okay line. They traded Cordy Glenn to get up to this position to try to get a quarterback. I see Lamar Jackson going here. I think it would be a good fit for the Buffalo Bills and Sean McDermott. Then we go to the Skins, NFC East. What do? They lose Kirk Cousins, let him go. They trade for Alex Smith. So you've got a steady signal caller there. They've built a really nice line. I think they want to have one of the best lines in the NFL. Weapons are so-so. Their defense still could build, but where do you go? Do you go a pass rusher? It's pretty weak. You could go Davenport, but I say, now, I don't think this is a reach because I think this kid's going to be really special. Why not get a really good running back to go behind those Hogs up front and pair with Alex Smith, a kid that can catch, a kid that can run outside the tackles, and Sony Michel. This guy can do it all. Really special season down there with the Georgia Bulldogs. He can catch, like I said. He can run outside. Think Alvin Kamara. He reminds me of an Alvin Kamara type. It's going to be special. He's gonna raise some eyebrows. So I see him going to the Redskins at 13. Then we got the pack. Aaron Rodgers. As long as you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, you're going to compete for a Super Bowl. Yeah, they lose Jordy Nelson, but they still got a slew of weapons. Plus, they signed that guy, Jimmy Graham. You thought Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham was something? Well, wait till you see Jimmy Graham and Aaron Rodgers. They're going to put up historic numbers, I think, this year. So they're set on the offensive end. As long as you have Aaron Rodgers, you're going to put up crazy offensive numbers. But protecting him was an issue last year. Hence why they're picking 14th and they're not later in the draft and didn't compete for a Super Bowl. So I say Brian Bulaga has been very injury prone. Same with David Bakhtiari. You can't rely on him. You take McGlinchey right here. You protect Aaron Rodgers. You do everything to throw them big boys in front of them. They drafted Jason Spriggs a few years ago. Why not get a bookend that maybe help you out just in case these big boys get hurt in Bulaga and Bakhtiari? I'm taking Mike McGlinchey here. I think it's a perfect spot for him. Now the Cardinals. Man, they had it all. For years, they had that nasty, tenacious defense. Patrick Peterson, the Honey Badger. Well, the Honey Badger has moved on. He went to the Houston Texans. Where do they go? Carson Palmer decides to retire. They signed Sam Bradford, often injury prone. Could they go tackle here? Yeah. Larry Fitzgerald isn't getting any younger. You still got David Johnson. He's really the piece that you're going to be building around. You still got a couple young pieces on the defensive side, but you want to score some points. And it's a shame. I feel really bad for Larry Fitzgerald. I still think it's too early to take his replacement at this point. So you go and get your signal caller of the future. This is where I think Baker Mayfield could make a lot of sense. He's quick on his feet. He's a mobile quarterback. He's very accurate. I think best quarterback that can throw on the move. Very intelligent. He's a wild card, though. I don't know what Baker Mayfield's going to be. If you throw him into the mix, think Johnny Manziel. That's who he reminds me of in college. Really prolific in college. Don't know how his game's going to translate to the NFL. Hard worker, smart. He's got that off-the-field issue crap. If he can straighten up, be mature, don't have any issues, just hit the books, be smart about it, and learn for a year behind Sammy Bradford, who's often injured, so maybe he gets thrown into the mix. Mayfield here to the Cardinals. And we got the Ravens. Storied franchise. Love the Ravens. Awesome. You got Joe Flacco who's getting up there in years. All them quarterbacks are now off the board. We've got 5 quarterbacks gone already. So they fall one pick short of possibly getting their signal caller of the future. Horrible offense. They don't really... I mean, Alex Collins is solid. They've got a decent front line. You know, they're starting to get up there in age. Defense is getting a little old, but they slowly built over the years. They got the C.J. Mosleys, the Jimmy Smiths. Juron they just picked up. Their back end I think they could use another corner. They got Marlon Humphrey last year. He looked pretty special. But where do you go? I think you got to go an offensive player here to get Joe Flacco some type of weapon because they've whiffed the past few seasons on their offensive picks in the first round. Not Breland. I can't think of the kid out of the wide receiver that has been often injured. Big Cat hasn't really played any time. They had Steve Smith was their leading receiver for years, but Calvin Ridley here to the Ravens. Perfect pick, best route runner in this draft. I think not an often big guy, but he's always finding holes in the zone. He's got good hands. First wide receiver off the board to the Ravens. Now we got the Chargers. The LA Chargers. And what are they going to do? They had a really great season last year. That defense is sneaky good. You got Ingram and Bosa coming off the edge. You got really good corners in Casey Hayward, Jason Verrett. Their safeties are not bad. Their linebackers, so. Maybe they go linebacker here. But I think they go Vita Vea to add to that pressure on that defense. You got the 2 big cats coming off the edge. They're speed guys. Why not put this big boy in the middle that could really collapse the pocket? It's the perfect mix. I think it's a match made in heaven if Vita falls this far. He might not, but if he does, they got to run up there and put this in because this kid's special. Think Haloti Ngata, a big dancing bear. For being 350 pounds, he can really push the pocket way better than Danny Shelton came out a few years ago. Then we're on to the Seahawks. Man, have they fallen. Legion of Boom is now broken up. All that's left is Earl Thomas. We don't know what's going to happen with Cam. Bam Bam Cam could retire, neck injury. And then the voice of the whole defense, the cat. The cat that really started the LOB before Earl Thomas when they all got together. And that is Richard Sherman. He is now with the San Francisco 49ers. So LOB is gone. And you could start to see the Seahawks decline. But you still got that man behind center, Russell Wilson. As long as he's there, he's going to continue to win games. The defense is getting older. They lost a lot of pieces. Michael Bennett is now gone. Sheldon Richardson left, went to the Vikings. You still got Bobby Wagner there, though, and they're rebuilding anew. We know how Pete Carroll does. Fantastic coach, but you got to protect your best asset in Russell Wilson. And here's where I see Isaiah Wynn going. You got Britt, who's a really good center. You got Jermaine Ifedi in there on the inside. Just like Chicago, you get in Wynn, he played tackle, but I think he's going to convert better to guard here. So you get them three big uglies in the middle. Get a run game going, help out Russell Wilson so he's not running for his life every 2 seconds. Isaiah Wynn to the Seahawks. Now we got the Cowgirls on the clock. And if this happens, which I hope it doesn't, Cowboys get Roquan Smith. I don't think he's going to fall here, but if the chips fall away, my mock goes, he could. Because a couple of these guys, he could go to the Chargers. Who knows? But in this situation, Roquan goes to the Cowboys. Their linebackers, they lost Hitchens. The linebackers struggled last year. When Sean Lee is getting up there in age, but when he was off the field, they struggled mightily. Jalen Smith, kid that was going to be a top 5 pick, blew his knee out 2 years ago. Really looked lost. You plug a kid like Roquan Smith in there, he's sideline to sideline. He's going to be able, he gets washed out in the run game sometimes, but guy that's an athletic freak, can go sideline to sideline, he's going to make tackles. You put him with Sean Lee in there, who's also going to go sideline to sideline. These kids are going to rack up tons of even sacks and tackles. They'll be all over the field. They're flying all over the field. They could have one of the best linebacking cores the years to come, because if Jalen Smith gets back into form, just look out. So they could have the Smith kids there. Now we have Detroit. Team that has been so distant with luck. It's a shame. Because you ruined the careers of Megatron and Barry Sanders. You got to let that weigh in there for a second. But they still got a cat I like a lot in Matthew Stafford. I think he's a really solid quarterback, franchise quarterback, and they've tried to build the lineup around him to protect him. Okay, you lose a weapon in Megatron, how do you replace him? The Eric Ebron situation didn't work out too much. I think that was a bust to take him at 10 overall. They got Marvin Jones, who's a really good free agent signing pickup from Cincinnati last year. He's not able to throw the long ball like he was to Megatron, but they could move the offense up and down. But they have not had a really great run game for quite some time. Well, the years that you've built up this offensive line, now's the time to go out and get one of them running backs. It's a deep running back class this year, and I see Derrius Guice going to Detroit to help out not only Matthew Stafford, but that offense in whole. It will open up for wide receivers like Marvin Jones. I was hoping that the Ebron experiment would work out. It really didn't. I still think they need offensive pieces. Maybe get a wide receiver in the second round. They might even go wide receiver here. But I think running back's too pressing for a team that hasn't had a 2,000 or a 100-yard rusher. And since Reggie Bush? I don't know if that's still going on. It might be, though. I don't think they broke that. So you got a cat like Derrius Guice in here, can catch, power runner. Some say he was even better than Leonard Fournette there. But I think this is a great pickup if the Lions can grab Guice if he falls this far. Now we move on to the Bengals. Whew. Man, at least they weren't the Bungles. They re-signed Marvin Lewis. For sure thought his job was on the line. He was going to get fired. He did not. They decided to bring him back. Hey, Cincinnati's just trying to put butts in the seats at this point. They got the Red Rocket behind there. Not a very efficient quarterback. But at this point in the draft, all the quarterbacks are gone. What do? You want to try to keep A.J. happy. Now, they could go tight end here because Tyler Eifert is always hurt, cannot stay healthy. But they're two bookend tackles. Really bad. Really bad. And they lost, Zeitler to free agency. But looking at the tackles, I don't think you take one here. And you look at their defense, it's starting to get a little older. Geno Atkins is getting a little older. Michael Johnson, he came back. He left for Tampa Bay. He came back. He's starting to get a little long in the tooth. Dunlap, still somewhat youthful, but you go in here and you start to build up on the defensive line to help these older guys out. And Marcus Davenport, raw edge rusher, but he brings it every night. Long, athletic, can get after the passer, and if he can have a rotation with Geno, Michael Johnson, and Dunlap, he can learn behind them guys. I think this is a good fit for the Bengals to start building up that defensive line. They could go linebacker here too, but I think Davenport's the great fit. Now back to the Buffalo Bills, who made a trade with the Kansas City Chiefs last year to get 2 first-round picks. They were picking 21 and 22, made the trade with the Bengals. Now they're picking 22. They're on the clock. Kyle Williams is getting a little older. He's 34 years of age, been a great nose tackle for them. I think you got to find a replacement for him. So you go out and get Da'Ron Payne, Alabama kid. Really big body guy, can bat down passes. A little more athletic than Kyle Williams. Can take, he's a space eater too. Being athletic, he could take on 2 guys. He's got a lot of power. I think this is a good fit for Buffalo to go out and get Da'Ron Payne, find Kyle Williams' replacement. Now we got the Patriots. Made the trade with the Rams. 23rd pick. What do? They had no pass rush whatsoever. They could not get to the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I feel like you got to go after a pass rusher here. It's a little premature. What do you do about quarterback? There were thoughts that possibly if Lamar Jackson falls this low, you go after him. I think that would be a match made in heaven, but in my mock, he's going to the Bills at number 12. So they go with Harold Landry here. You go with the best edge. You got to get some type of pressure over there. Ever since they lost Chandler Jones, it's been a mess there. They could go linebacker too with Van Bosch, but I got them going after Landry. It's just too much of a need. Or do they chase after Mason Rudolph? He's still on the board, but it might be a little too high. Now we're going to the Panthers. Cam Newton. When he had his MVP season, they had all burners. Ted Ginn, Philly Brown, Jericho Cotchery, guys of this nature. You look at this offense now, Greg Olsen's really getting up there in age. Was often injured last year. He had a foot injury. And that's Cam Newton's favorite target right there. Well, with losing him, a lot of pressure goes on to Funchess. Funchess had a pretty decent year last year, but he's a big body guy. Ex-tight end, converted to wide receiver. They lost Calvin Benjamin. They traded him to Buffalo last year. So where do you go offensively? They also lost Jonathan Stewart, but you pick up McCaffrey last year. You find his replacement. Here's where I think the Panthers should go after Greg Olsen's replacement and go after Dallas Goedert. Awesome freaking tight end. Kid, super athletic. He's not going to be a guy that's going to step in there and block. Not like the Greg Olsen. He is more of a flex tight end. He's going to hit you with the seam. He's going to go up the seam. He can run the post routes. Super athletic. One-handed catches. Jimmy Graham, anybody? I don't know. He played D2. Does it matter? I don't think so. A lot of scouts on ESPN seem to think that the spotlight's going to get to him. Since he played in D2, he's not going to be special. I think it's going to be special. You look at tight end and running back this year, very deep. So, Dallas Goedert to the Panthers. Titans now. What do? Made the wild card spot. Always play the Jags tough. I freaking hate the Titans. They are my Dallas Cowboys in my division. I cannot stand them. But you look at their linebacking core. Lost Avery Williamson. Huge loss. You got Wesley Woodyard. Little old, though. Getting up there. A little long in the tooth. I think Rashaan Evans is a perfect fit here. He's a guy that can really come off the edge. He's better as a weak side backer. I don't see him being a thumper in the middle. He's not really going to lead your team and be the signal caller. I know he was there at Bama, but I think he's best converted, especially because they play a 3-4. He goes to the outside. A guy that can really blitz and get off to the edge. Get Rashaan Evans there to the Titans. Falcons, 2 years removed from the Super Bowl. Kind of had an off year. Eagles knocked them out. Loaded on the offensive end. You know, you got Matty Ice is still there. You got them 2-star running backs. Julio Jones, of course. You know, their tight end hoop is starting to come along. Decent. Their offense is just loaded. But I think their weakness was at right guard this year. They had a slew of guys just churning in there. You know, you got Alex Mack there. You got Matthews there on the left tackle. I think it's Schwartz they got from, was it Mitchell Schwartz that plays on the right side? However, and then you got Levitre there at left guard. You plug in a guy like Billy Price, you want to get there. Their offense is still very prolific. Go in there, can really go up and down. They can average about 27 points a game. So you want to shore up that line, protect Matty Ice. He's starting to get up there in age, but